I met a gypsy.
KTM did that. I mean, I don't know if people really remember how KTM got the stranglehold that they did in motocross and supercross. They went all in on 65s and all in on 50s and then all in on 80s and then all in on 125s. Like when I was a kid growing up, and Jeff Leask, you'd know Leask.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Jeff Leask was the CEO of KTM Australia. That dude's a genius. They put so much effort into the Australian junior racing. Jet, Hunter, Jackson Richardson, Todd Waters, Dean Ferrer, all those, Brendan Harrison, Ty Simmons, all of them on KTMs. And then you had like Zach Osborne over here, and they started to go from the bottom up. And then what happened? They just had kids graduate, different class, and then they're in the pro ranks. And you've got an entire generation of people that were comfortable with KTMs. Oh, I've raced them as a kid. For me, I raced Hondas as a kid. So like my generation to when I was a kid racing, you looked at the KTM kids and you'd say like, kick the mothers or keep taking money. You know what I mean? Like it was just such a different generation. You fast forward now, and I mean, I'm even half like that. Like now I don't have a fucking spare brake lever for a Honda anywhere. Like I've got a graveyard of KTM parts. And so they were the company that did that. They started at the bottom, the KTM Junior Challenge. Like they invested from the bottom up, and it was massive for them.
Yeah, I believe me. I know. I had a front row seat. When KTM in America really got started, it was actually Penton, and it was in Ohio, because KTM got into the business because of John Penton, who was looking for, in the 1960s, a lighter two-stroke motorcycle that he could race in the woods against all the BSAs and Triumphs and other things that people were racing at the time. And that became, he found himself in Matikoven, and that became the Kronreef Trunkenpolz machine shop.
Yeah, I still don't know.
Whatever it was. And so I because I lived in Morgantown, West Virginia, and John Penton was from Ohio, KTM's headquarters in America were in Amherst, Ohio. And that's how I became a KTM-supported privateer in 1985.
No way.
And the bikes were white, and I would drive back and forth to Lorain, Ohio, or Amherst to get parts because they were not the bikes that they are now. And anyway, I have a deep appreciation of what KTM has done and how far that they've come and how much they continue to do.
Yeah.
And I think that, we used to think of it as the big four in KTM, and now it's the establishment.
Yeah.
It's the Japanese and the Austrians.
Yeah.
And with Triumph. By the way, how good did that Triumph look? I mean, both Jalik and Joey were. If Joey doesn't go down that first turn crash in Sakamoto, he might be on the box.
And Jalik is getting on the podium this year for sure. Like, and it's funny. She now is like she knows all the riders, and like because she did the Supercross thing this year and first outdoor race on the weekend. But we're watching the race back on TV, and I'm just sitting there being like, I cannot explain to you how gnarly this is, that bike is that good this race.
Yeah.
Like that is really, really, really
impressive.
Hard to do. Like it looked amazing. I was watching, in particular, Joey in the first moto, just how well the bike was set up. And obviously you can't get good starts like that against.
And that was his first race since God knows last year.
Yeah.
I'm pulling for those guys because they're
going to crush it. They just got all the right people.
Eventually.
Yeah.
And Ducati's going to come, and they're coming hard. And the success that Ducati has had, in World Superbike, MotoGP, the success that they have at the dealership level with their high-end bikes, and the investment that they've made. I mean, they're bringing over the top guy to manage motocross and supercross. They got Tony Cairoli and all his equity and resources and knowledge how to set up a bike. They're fully,
they're coming to play.
They're fully committed. So,
do you think that's got anything to do with KTM's presence in MotoGP?
No,
You think it's purely sales?
my NDA is exhausted now, so I've known they were coming for a few years.
Yep.
And I remember I had a friend who worked at Alpenstars for a while, and then he went to work at Triumph. And at the end of 2020, he came to a GNCC. We were one of the only series up and running, and I'm like, why would you want to come to a GNCC in West Virginia? And he was like, well, I'll tell you, but first you got to sign this NDA.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I don't know. I couldn't believe it. He was like, we're coming.
It's crazy how important that is, eh?
Yeah. And, but he wanted to know how it all worked. Amateur racing, AMA racing, GNCC, Supercross, those guys all did their due diligence. When I say those guys, I mean Stark, Ducati, Triumph.
Yep.
And it's cool that they're making the investment. They're bringing something to the carousel, and they intend on being
Massively.
a part of the momentum. And they're going to put the work in to keep this thing going.
Yeah.
And I think that is the only price of admission, I think, to be involved in this sport.
Yeah.
You got to be willing to invest and work and bet on yourself.
If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. And to listen to the full 3-hour podcast, search Gypsy Tales in your favorite podcast platform or click the link in the description below. Gypsy Gang.